Hi, I'm Joey Brink, the University Carillioner at the University of Chicago, and this is Collaborations on the Rockefeller Carillon, a presentation offered through the University of Michigan's 60th Annual Organ Conference. I'm going to talk to you a lot about collaborations that I've done at Rockefeller Chapel over the last 5 years since being at the university, collaborating with performers, composers, and artists of all kinds, and with the community. So why collaborate? Collaborating can bring in lots of new audiences and promote you and your instrument in different ways. As carillonneurs, we spend a lot of time in our towers by ourselves, and I love being in a tower by myself, but it's incredibly fun to make music with other people and collaborate in different ways. So I couldn't encourage you more strongly to collaborate with your own instruments. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you how different collaborations happen, particularly with performers in different setups, so that you can try something similar with your own carillons and your own instruments. So a lot of collaborations start with composers, and composers are one of your greatest tools in beginning a new collaboration. Whether you're collaborating with the composer themselves or collaborating with another instrumentalist or another performer, getting a new piece of music for your collaboration can be amazing. And it's so much fun to collaborate with a composer and bring them into the carillon community and have them writing for carillon. I'm not going to go into how to commission composers or the best ways to do that, but I will point out this resource for you. It's provided by the GCNA Johann Franco Composition Fund, authored by Tiffany Ng, who's on that committee with me. She wrote this amazing guide on getting started to commissioning music, so you can check that out and learn more about that there. But for now, I'm going to focus on collaborations with performers and community collaborations. The first half of the presentation on collaborating with performers. So the first thing you'll have to ask yourself when you begin a new collaboration with a performer is where that performer will be. Will they be in the tower with you, sitting next to you in the playing cabin, or will they be outside the tower, usually with the audience? So I'll go into different examples with both setups and explain to you the pros and cons of doing each of them. I'm not going to cover mobile or chamber carillon collaborations. I've been fortunate to have had the opportunity to perform on chamber carillons with different ensembles, but it's not an opportunity that we are given frequently. There's not a lot of chamber carillons out there, though hopefully that might change sometime in the future. But for now, let's focus on collaborating with our tower instruments. Beginning with collaborating with performers in the tower. So in the tower, you have the benefit that you can easily communicate with your collaborator. You can talk to each other, you can hear each other play their instrument, and that's incredibly valuable. The downside is, of course, that your audience probably can't hear the other instrumentalist without some kind of amplification. So let's go into a few examples of performers in the tower. Actually, all of us have performed with other collaborators in the tower with other carillon players or other people at the keyboard. Just by playing a duet with another carillon player, you're collaborating with somebody. Duets are super fun to play. I'm not going to go into a whole lot on duets because they're so common, but I do want to show you this one video of a duet with Rob Scallon, YouTuber and guitarist. I was giving this demonstration of the carillon to Rob when I think I'm explaining rolled chords and the technique behind rolling a chord, when he just starts playing some melody and suddenly we're jamming without any kind of introduction, and it goes from there. So here's a 2-minute clip of what that's like.
You also can roll more notes.
Yeah. I have to double check. Coming up with something.
Yeah.
I like this. Would you want to play that melody in the other octaves? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Should we change chords? E minor? Back to A minor?
Back to 1, 2, 3, 4. No! It was just a long ending. I was getting to that note eventually.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
Yeah, I really love that. I didn't think that we would be like jamming on this today.
Yeah, hey, it's awesome.
Okay, so Rob has never played the Carillon before, and he's a very talented musician. And so this wasn't a duet that I was expecting to play or a collaboration that I thought was going to be my most far-reaching performance ever. I'm pointing this out because this is a great example of how collaborating can bring in new audiences and promote you and your instrument. If you type Carillon into YouTube, at least I think for me, then one of the first videos that comes up is this video. It's gotten more than 3 million views in the last year, and the New York Times Watching newsletter picked it up as something to check out. So it's been the most promotion that I've ever had from a collaboration. And it's an unexpected collaboration too, something in the moment that I thought was more of a demonstration turning into a jam session. Super fun. So in addition to duets, you can also play with a number of performers around the keyboard. Why stop at 2 when you can play with 3 or 4 or 12 performers around your keyboard? Augusta Thomas, university professor at UChicago, wrote Ripple Effects for Carillon for the 2018 New Music Festival at Rockefeller Chapel. Here's a clip, a 1-minute clip of Ripple Effects. that final chord of the piece calls for every single one of the 72 bells to ring simultaneously, and that ring lasts for a full minute. I cut it off for the interest of time right now, but wow, what a fun way to collaborate. Getting 12 people around the keyboard took a lot of rehearsal and a lot of practice and a lot of patience from everybody, but it was incredibly fun. Since that premiere, we've re-recorded the piece in duet form. Michael Slotky and I have recorded it and put it on an album titled Ripple Effects, and Augusta has also put it on her most recent album, The Auditions, with a number of her other compositions. And this piece was the headline of the New Music Festival in 2018, which had 16 world premieres of new music, lots of collaborations with performers and composers, and I'll be sharing a few other examples of music from that festival over the course of the presentation too. So unless you're collaborating with performers at the Carillon keyboard specifically, you're probably going to need some kind of amplification in the tower. And this is the setup that I have in the tower at Rockefeller. I have 4 Mackie 1530 speakers in the belfry placed amongst the bells. At first I only had 2 speakers for a year, and then I upgraded to 4 speakers. Each of these speakers I bought used on eBay for about $1,300 each. So they're not super cheap, but I did get them used, which helped. But they're also very heavy. These are large speakers that you would find at rock concerts, and I could not carry them up the tower by myself. We hired movers to carry them up the 241 steps to the playing cabin, and then they had to haul them up a ladder to get them on top of the playing cabin amongst the bells. Amazingly, the movers came back the following year to haul up the other 2. I don't know why they did that, but I'm grateful. So the speakers are your biggest expense and the most important piece of the puzzle here. You're also going to need a mixer and wires to route your audio to the speakers, and then of course a microphone or some kind of input device for the instrumentalist or the other performer to play with. Monitoring headphones or monitoring speakers might be helpful, not entirely necessary, but for the other performer or for you to hear more of the balance of what the other person is playing, that can be really helpful. And then later on I also upgraded the system to include a new computer and an audio interface. This is really helpful for playing electronic music on the speakers and for just managing the recordings that we're making. So that can be helpful too. Okay, so here's a few examples of performers in the tower on other instruments. The first one here, this is Jan Verheyen on Carillon and Cedric Honing on guitar, 2 guests from Belgium that played last year in our Bells of Summer music series. Here's a clip. Yeah, so just to be clear, Cedric is on his guitar in the tower next to Jan playing the Carillon. Cedric's playing that guitar into a microphone, which is getting routed through the mixer over the speakers, projecting out for all of the campus to hear. It's being recorded by the in-tower microphones, so it's not a great recording. There's not a professional recording engineer recording this one like there was with Ripple Effects or like there will be with some other examples I'll show you. But hearing a guitar or another instrument or electronic sound come out of the tower is so unbelievably cool. I think so. I think a lot of people might agree with me, but it can also be very distracting or disturbing to the neighborhood. I've learned over the years that whenever I'm going to use my speakers for amplifying another instrument or amplifying an electronic sound, I need to let people know in advance. The very first time that we used the speakers was with Tiffany Ng in May of 2017. She performed with electronics, a live electronic accompaniment and pre-recorded electronic accompaniment. And it was incredibly cool. We got the speakers in the setup. Tiffany helped me select the speakers and kind of introduced me into how to perform with accompaniment, electronic accompaniment. But at that performance, the facilities services at the university came running over to the tower saying, "You got to evacuate the tower, the bells are falling down, something is breaking, it's not safe to be up there." And we had to say, no, it's okay. This is music. There's, this is pre-recorded electronic or live electronic tape that's being played over the speakers. It's planned, it's a performance, it's okay. And so now whenever we use the speakers, especially for electronic music, we'll let facilities know that it's happening. I also have a number of neighbors that I will let know that the speakers are going to be used so that they can plan their day around maybe some slightly louder music coming from the tower. There's been a couple of other occasions where I've gotten to bring some different instruments up the tower. In 2018, a couple of my students, Talia and Elsa, brought up a French horn and a double bass, and wow, it was challenging getting that double bass up the tower. If you've ever been to Rockefeller Chapel, you'll know that we've got a tight spiral staircase, lots of beams to duck under to get across the catwalk, and getting that double bass up the tower was work, but it was incredibly fun and totally rewarding. So here's a couple more examples. This is Introduction and Aria by Geert D'hollander for Carillon and trombone. Okay, so for this one we had a little bit of extra setup. This was for the New Music Festival in May of 2018, when we had lots of performances back to back with different performers, different collaborators, different instrumentalists, electronic music, and it was really helpful to have a professional sound engineer sitting in the cabin, adjusting the levels on the mixer, setting up electronic tracks. The setup was entirely the same in terms of the equipment, so there was no additional equipment other than what I've shown you already. But that person designated to be there troubleshooting and adjusting the levels was very helpful. There's also a recording engineer, professional recording engineer, outside on the lawn with 2 microphones recording the outdoor sound coming from the tower and then mixing that with the 4 in-tower pressure zone microphones, picking up the sound in the belfry. And those 6 microphones in addition to the microphone that Riley's playing into on his trombone. So the recording that you're hearing is the result of the input from those 7 microphones. Okay, so let's do one more example of Carillon and cello. This is a cello suite by Bach and a responding Carillon suite by Geert D'hollander. Here's a clip. So you'll notice that the Carillon and cello are not playing at the same time. This piece calls for the cello to play one movement, and then the Carillon to play the responding movement, and then back to the cello, then back to the Carillon. And so with this kind of performance, we could have done it a number of different ways. We could have put the cello outside on the lawn, playing directly in front of the audience. But we already had the tower speakers in place, and I really wanted to hear the cello coming from the tower. And so it sounded very cool that we were able to pull that off. But it could have been done in a number of different ways. So, okay, so let's move on to collaborations with performers that are outside of the tower. So in this situation, you're not going to be able to easily communicate with your collaborator. They're going to be far away from you. You won't be able to talk to each other or hear whatever they're doing. They can probably hear you playing the Carillon though. So that adds a complication. But on the plus side, the audience can see them and hear them, and it's maybe more engaging for the audience that way. So every year we host an event called Caroling with the Carillon, where, just like it sounds, people come and carol while my students and I are playing holiday music on the bells. We set up an outdoor fire pit, totally optional, of course, for people to carol around. But we also open up the chapel inside, where the audio from the tower is live streamed into the chapel so people can hear it inside. So if it is snowing or really cold and people don't want to be outside, they can come inside and hear it there too. And then here's another example of Carillon and voice. In 2016, Geert D'hollander invited me to play Peter and the Wolf with him at Bach Tower in Florida. And then a couple months later, we played it at the University of Chicago. Elizabeth Davenport, the former dean, is narrating. Here is a clip.
Peter paid no attention to his grandfather's words. Boys like him are not afraid of wolves. Grandfather took Peter by the hand, led him home, and locked the gate. Grandfather gone, then a big gray wolf came out of the forest.
Okay, so for this setup, we hired a sound company to set up a very simple system on the lawn that included a microphone and a speaker for Elizabeth to project her voice across the lawn where the audience was. So they could see Elizabeth and they could hear her through the speaker. But we also needed a way to hear Elizabeth upstairs in the tower. Geert and I needed to react to her cues as the narrator to then begin playing the next segment of the score. And so we had the audio company drop a wire several hundred feet long from the cabin down the spiral staircase to the lawn into that mixer so that we could hear what she was saying. We probably could have gotten away with a little bit of a less expensive setup. We probably could have communicated with a cell phone or even a walkie-talkie potentially, maybe not quite as well. But we did not have to play music together at the same time with somebody outside, and so we didn't have to have our timing exactly precise, but certainly it was really helpful to have this professional setup for that event. That was super fun. Okay, here's another performance. This is with Irene Hsiao, dancer, and this is a fun collaboration in that Irene approached me. She had been scheduled to perform a dance with this sculpture, the Dialogo sculpture by Virginio Ferrari, and the Smart Museum of Art was putting on the event. And Irene found herself practicing and rehearsing her dance while the Carillon was playing. And so she approached me and said, I really love dancing to your Carillon playing. And I thought, oh, that's great. And then she explained the event to me, and we decided to team up and offer this joint collaborative performance where I played compositions of mine and Irene danced. And so here's a clip, actually 2 clips of the dance, one from the earlier half of the performance and one from the later half. Irene invited the audience to join her dancing in the sculpture, so you'll see a lot of kids join in the second half of the presentation, of the performance. So with this performance, and similar with the caroling with the Carillon, there's no additional setup, technical setup, and so there's no way that I can hear or see what the other performer is doing outside. So I don't know what Irene is doing while I'm playing. I'm just playing and doing my thing, and she's reacting to me. So it's less of a two-way communication than more of a one-way communication where I'm playing the music and Irene is reacting. But it was super, super fun, and I love that all these children joined in. So another example of a way to set up an outdoor or an outside the tower but indoors performance would be to play. In this case, the tower is attached to Rockefeller Chapel, and so we can host events inside the chapel, which is outside the tower, and therefore the Carillon needs to be amplified inside the chapel. So there's 2 examples here. The first one is also Carillon in voice for Shakespeare's 400th anniversary. Gabby Flores and Seth Patterson offered Shakespearean monologues while I played Elizabethan Carillon music. And I'm not able to hear, like in the last one, I'm not able to hear anything that they're saying. I'm just playing my music and letting them react to me. So here's a clip.
I go and it is done. The bell invites me. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell. It summons thee to heaven or to hell.
Another example of collaborating inside the chapel, in 2016, organist Dennis James, came to play alongside the silent film The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And we thought that I could join him on the Carillon and we could play a duet, Carillon and organ. It was so much fun. Here's a picture of me dressed up as the Hunchback. I got really into it. This setup required a little bit more work in that I did need to hear what the organ was playing. And the organist and I both had to be taking our cues from the same video playback. And so we rigged a system where there's now a wire that carries sound from the chapel up to the tower in good enough quality for me to hear what the organ is playing. And then the organ, of course, can hear what I'm playing, and the audience can hear what I'm playing through the live feed from the tower into the chapel. And then we also had to have the audience and the organist and me all viewing the same video of the movie, at the same cue. And so we did this just over walkie-talkie, going 1, 2, 3, press play. And that magically worked, though it was a little bit stressful. But this was super fun. I hope we get to do that one again sometime too. Okay, so that was collaborating with performers. I'm going to show you a couple of community collaborations of different kinds. Every year, Hyde Park, the neighborhood where Chicago is, hosts the Hyde Park Jazz Festival. And it's a great festival. I love jazz. I grew up playing jazz. And so I really, really wanted to play in this festival. And so I reached out to the program coordinator and asked, hey, I've got an instrument in the neighborhood. I like to play jazz. Can I play in the festival? And they said, yeah, great. And that's been going on every year since. Sometimes I play solo. Sometimes I play with another instrument, like with Riley on trombone one year, or sometimes duets with my partner Vera one year. So that's really fun. Here's a campus collaboration. In 2017, we commemorated the 75th anniversary of the first self-sustaining nuclear reaction, which took place at the University of Chicago in 1942. And this was a whole weekend of public events, art, music, lectures, discussions, panels of all kinds that reflected back on this scientific discovery of nuclear medicine, nuclear energy, nuclear warfare. So I'm going to show you two clips. The first is a clip produced by the university that shows the kind of signature event of the weekend on December 2nd at 3:25 p.m., the very start of the experiment 75 years ago. A firework launched over the library at the university, which then also signaled me to start playing the Carillon. So here first is that video of the firework.
I would like to express our appreciation of the time, energy, and imagination you have devoted to this project and your aspiration to provoke awe while summoning hope. Your pyrotechnic works have been described as opening a tunnel through space and time. For us, in this space now, a tunnel from 1942 to 2017, today when the essential paradox of nuclear energy has never been more acute.
So I'll show you more of the Carillon performance in a minute. But the setup here, because the library is a little farther away from the tower, from the chapel, the audience needed a way to hear the Carillon besides just the acoustic sound of the bells that were not quite loud enough at the library. And so we hired an audio company to provide a wireless audio stream several blocks from the chapel to the library. And then we used walkie-talkies to coordinate when I should start playing the cue to play at the exact same time as the firework went off. So this piece is 28 minutes long. I'm just going to play a minute of it at the beginning. It's one of the most amazing compositions I've ever played by Ted Moore. it's 28 minutes long to parallel the 28-minute experiment 75 years prior. So here's a clip right at the start of the firework. So if you probably noticed, this is a work for Carillon and electronics. So the speakers in the tower are the same speakers that I used with other instrumentalists. Can use them with electronic music as well. And in this case, you need the computer and the audio interface to play the sound from the computer over the speakers, still using the mixer. You'll notice I also have a phone. My phone is on the music stand next to me. This score calls for cues from a timing device, a stopwatch basically, to tell me when to play certain parts of the score. Okay, so another great way to collaborate with the community is to just take song requests. It's easy to set up an online form. We have one at Rockefeller where people can come in and request any song they want to hear at whatever day they want to hear it. And we can't take every request that comes in. We get a lot of requests, but it's really fun to take requests for special occasions, for weddings, memorials, or just randomly seeing what comes through. I admit I am biased towards some music, and if I see a song that I like come through, I'm maybe more likely to play it. But I really try to play music from different styles that I might not necessarily know or that are not my personal favorites. An example of that, one of the first requests I played just a month after arriving at the job here, I got a request to play Hotline Bling by Drake, and I did not know this song prior to taking the request, but I thought, sure, let's give it a shot. The requester came up and filmed it and put it on BuzzFeed. I didn't know that was going to happen, but that was fun. So here's a short clip. On the BuzzFeed article, the requester, her name's Chelsea on the article, she posted a picture of the sheet music too that I was playing off of. And then one person in the comments on the article wrote, "Oh boy, you're in for a whole, opened up a whole can of worms with copyright law here." And then my dean approached me and said, "Hey, this is really cool, but what do we have to know about the copyright here?" And I said, no, we're okay, because the sheet music I was playing off of was a purchased lead sheet, and I zoomed in on the text here that you can't really read, but it says, "Licensed to Joseph Brink through musicnotes.com." And so I said, yeah, we're totally fine. But I wanted to just point that out, that when you have visitors coming up to take pictures and video of you, even though you might not expect they will, they'll take pictures of your sheet music or or other things that are lying around the tower. So be careful what you show sometimes. Here's another fun request. This is for Timmy the fish, Timmy McFish Fish Bailey, the fish in the web services department that passed away a couple of years ago. And I played a whole memorial for Timmy, and then they sent him to the pond on a Viking funeral afterwards. Here's a short clip. Okay, one last request that I'll play for you. Sometimes requests come from the university news office or communications. They once asked me to rickroll the campus on April Fool's Day that they posted live on their Facebook. Here's a clip from the Eclipse in August of 2017. It was cloudy that day, but it was still cool to see. And that's Total Eclipse of the Heart, of course. I think after the sun came back out, it was Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. And before the sun, before the eclipse happened, it was Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me by Elton John. Okay, the last example I'm going to show you today is a collaboration from earlier this year with Justin Douglas, our Rockefeller intern. He helped me select a song that we could program on the hour chime to play for Juneteenth. And we have this hour chime mechanism in our mechanical room that we use to play the melody before the hour strike. It plays every hour from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. And since I've been here for 5 years, it's always played the Westminster chime. But for this occasion, we changed it for the first time. And for 3 weeks, it played We Shall Overcome. Here's a clip. One of the challenges with our hour chime is that it only can play 9 notes, and it's not a scale or any seemingly thought out collection of notes. It's a selection of the very heaviest bells and then a couple of bells slightly above those. So you can see the notes of that chime mechanism below. There aren't a lot of melodies that can work on that series of pitches, but it was very special to play that on the chime for a few weeks. Okay, so that's the presentation. Always happy to hear from listeners, composers, viewers. Feel free to reach out to me at my website with any questions. Thank you to all of my collaborators in this presentation and in other collaborations. And thank you to Tiffany Ng for inviting me to give this presentation and to the University of Michigan for hosting the conference. Thank you.